I am Jennifer Fox with Music Educator Resources, and today is Music Teacher Tip number 37. So today we are talking about one of my favorite subjects, summer camp. Last month, when I was prepping for this teacher tip, I realized that I really wanted to address any specific questions that you had. So today I am answering those questions that were submitted. Thank you for submitting those. My original plan was to answer the top 5, but I decided to answer some others as well. We had some great questions, so I hope it helps. So the first one is, should I consider renting space in another location, or can I run a camp out of my home studio successfully? I run my camps out of my home successfully. I think whether you want to run it out of your home or renting a space will largely depend on a couple factors. So think about these questions. Are you allowed to have groups of students in your home at one time? There are some HOAs, for example, that might not allow it. So that might be a big factor. Also, ask yourself, how much room do you have in your home studio? What activities are you going to be doing? Will you be able to accommodate those activities in the home? Um, or maybe you need to take it outside. Are you going to do a large group in one camp session? Things like that will help you determine whether you need to um, rent a venue or not. And also think about, if you live in an area where you can do an outside camp, think about renting reserving a park space through the city. So that's another idea. I can't do that in Arizona because it's so hot. But if you live where it's not too bad, that's an idea. All right, how many students would you allow to enroll in each camp session? So my happy place is between 6 to 8 students. I might stretch that a little depending on the dynamic of the particular group or the camp that we're doing. I've done as many as 12 kids, but that's really pushing it unless you have some help. If you do have some help, then that number can definitely grow. But if you don't, you might want to consider keeping it between that 6 and 8. If it's your first time doing camp, you might want to even do between 4 and 6 just to see how it goes. All right, our next question, tips for managing behavior and excitement when the kids get a little off topic and loud. How to redirect to keep things moving. So I had to laugh a little and nod my head after reading this question because yes, camp will get loud, especially depending on the activities that you're doing. And that's okay. They're having fun. What we don't want is the out of control where it's taking over what you're trying to do. So I have found that a certain mix of students will vary how loud a group gets. If I can help it, I will try not to pair a lot of high energy students together. So I recommend kind of looking who's registering when and if they have some leeway and choosing a different session and kind of wiggle some others away from each other. At the beginning of camp, I do set clear expectations and go over rules. I keep it simple by using the Give Me 5. And if you haven't heard of that, it just talks about eyes are listening, eyes are listening, eyes are watching, ears are listening, mouth is quiet unless they're supposed to be talking, hands are to themselves or helping others, and heart is caring. So I do have a rule printout that I'll post. It's for free. You can just download it and use it. You're welcome to use it during your camp or whatever you're doing, group lessons or whatever. If behavior gets to the point of starting to lose control, there are some things that you can do. The first thing that you'll want to try is to recognize and praise the students who are behaving, because sometimes that can be enough, where if the students who are not behaving or a little out of control, if they're doing that more for attention and they see that you're not giving them the attention, you're giving the kids that are behaving the attention, then usually that will help shift. But sometimes it doesn't. So students sometimes will just get excited because they're excited and they'll start sharing or doing things that disrupt the flow. Sometimes it's just chatter boxes. Um, so I think it's important when you're redirecting to acknowledge them, but not in a praising way. So for example, you could say, well, that's really interesting. I'd love for you to share a little more during our snack break. But right now, let's do blah, blah, blah. We're doing this. So it's redirecting them back in. You're acknowledging that what they're saying you're interested in, but it's just not the appropriate time to share. Or, whatever they might be doing that's not appropriate. And then sometimes if it's a little nuts, because this happens every once in a while, depending again on the energy of a child, you just need to put a halt on whatever you're doing and remind them of the rules. Okay, everyone, we're reviewing our rules because we're having some problems, and then you get right back into the activity. If you're at the point where you can go, if that activity is kind of dying down anyway, you may want to just change to a quieter activity. Maybe you have a little um, more hands-on craft or something, or a snack break. That is, you could do a snack break or something. So just something that might have not been in your original order, but is needed at that time. All right, what has been your all-time favorite age group for summer offerings? So this one was a hard question because I like different age groups for different reasons. A lot of my camps are actually mixed ages, so it really just depends on the camp of what I'm doing. Um, and I loved mixed age camps because the older students have the opportunity to mentor the younger students, which also helps me too. So I thought I would share some of my favorite camps over the years. So some of my favorite camps have been Let's Go to the Movies. I loved that one. Students learned about and created their own silent movie. And it was so fun. So fun. One year we did a stop motion animation camp, and that was a lot of fun. They really got creative. I loved seeing what they came up with. The best part of this camp, it was 90% student led. I would give them instructions at the beginning on how to do things. And then once it was the creative time of actually doing it, they just went for it. And I was there for just mentoring. I was there to answer questions, give any guidance if needed. Otherwise, I was sitting there taking pictures and just seeing what they were doing, taking some videos. So love that one. I've done a science and music camp a couple times over the years, and that's been a lot of fun. General theory camps are always fun. You just pull in all the theory games that you've collected over the years and create a camp out of it. That one's an easy one to do. All right, large group icebreaker activities for camp opener ideas and closing ideas. So a couple group icebreaker games for camp openers are a heads up game where students have a music symbol on their head. I just bought foam hats at the dollar store and put a flashcard on the hat. And so that was easy. And then they ask yes or no questions to the other students to try to guess the music symbol that they have. Another great one for big groups in particular is spiderweb. I love this one. I've used it other places as well, but students just sit in a circle. You take a ball of yarn or string, whatever you have, and have the first student grab the end, and they share three things that you want them to share. It could be three things about themselves, um, what they love about music, whatever. It could be a getting to know you thing if you want. Then, without letting go of the end of their yarn, they roll the ball to another student, and I encourage them to roll across the way, not to the next student next to them. And then that student does the same thing. They hold on to the string and then roll the ball, but they're not letting go of the end of the string. So in the end, they created this really cool spider web design. A couple of things to tell them is no pulling or tugging, and keep hold on your end. So don't let go. And this turns into, it could turn into a lesson as well, just to say, we're here at summer camp, where we're going to be working as a team, and each one of us is important. When we let go of that, if anybody let go of their yarn, the spider web collapses, and the design just goes away, this beautiful design that we made. So we're here, and you could even tie it into the rules. It's a great activity. I do have a bunch more icebreaker games. I'll link to the post. Music teacher tip number 18 is on getting to know you activities. And then I have another blog post as well. So I'll link to those in this blog post. So if you're watching here on YouTube directly, just go to my blog and find this music teacher tip number 37, and then it will have all these links that I'm mentioning. Um, Closing games, I think of quiet games that you can do for closing activities. So bingo is a great quieter game that you can do. Things like that kind of gets them quieted down, or even you could even end with a quiet craft or something. All right, how many summer music camps do you put on? So I've been doing summer camps for over 25 years now. Um, this number of how many camps do I put on really has varied over the years. When I was feeling really energetic, I would hold three different camp themes in a summer. So that was three different planning, prepping, um, and doing. And but the doing was even more. So I'd have about three themes and then 2 to 3 sessions of each of those themes. So that was a lot of work. And I'm like, "What was I thinking?" Fast forward a few years ago, I raised my yearly tuition to include both my Christmas camp that I have in December and my summer camp. Previously to that, my yearly tuition just covered the Christmas camp, and then my summer camp was a separate tuition. It was required if they were going to continue in the fall. So students who try to test that, I would tell them they would go to the bottom of my waiting list, and they did. So many times I couldn't get them back in right away, and they learned quickly not to do that again. um, but now I include summer camp in my tuition structure, so it's already there, and I do just one camp theme and about 2 to 3 session options that they can choose from. They also have the option to do a camp session, or if they can't go to any of those sessions, or if they prefer, they can do a summer video lesson packet. And I won't talk about that right now because we're not on that subject, but I will link to that if you're interested about what that is. I'll link to a couple posts on that. Music teacher tip number 12 has it talks about that, and there's one other post as well. But the nice thing about offering both a summer camp and a video lesson packet is my students choose one or the other, but if they want to do both, there's an extra fee. And so they don't, because tuition's included already for this, the extra fee is the only thing they pay because they already paid for summer camp in advance. So it works out really nice because I do make extra income over the summer because I always have students that opt for both. All right. How many hours do you run your camps for? Well, it depends on the camp. My camps, since I've included them as part of my yearly tuition, are just 4 hours. I've had them as long as 8 to 10 hours. When I did that, when I first started camps, it was 5 days a week, 2 hours each day. And then it got reduced to 4 hours a camp, 2 hours, 4 days, 2 hours each day. Um, but over the years, I've learned that my families prefer to do camp in the least amount of days possible. They don't want to keep driving over and over again, so they would rather have a longer camp and less days. Survey your parents to see what they would prefer, um, and give a couple options. It's good to give options, right? And see what people like. Oh, one thing I wanted to mention too on the subject is um, when I have a minimum of how many students can be in a session to make a session happening. So my minimum is between 3 to 4 students. If I don't have 3 to 4 students in that particular session signed up, then that session doesn't happen. So, and I make that clear that I want them to sign up for as many sessions as will work for them to ensure that a session will happen if they're interested. All right, next question. Is it worth the work to put summer camp on? I think so. Camp has really been a win-win for me and my families. Students love them. They make friends during camp. They have a lot of fun. And then they have the freedom, the families have the freedom to go on vacation and have, do other activities. Swimming lessons is really big here. Free for me, it frees up time for me to prep for fall and also spend time with my family, which is huge. They hear the piano all year long. They need a break. And it's great to be able to spend more time with them. And I do this all without losing any income over the summer. So yes, it's been worth it because I can have a break, my students can have a break, and then we're re-energized when we come back to fall. So this one, I am strictly online now and would love to hear some ideas and tips about what all I should incorporate. Any suggestions on how to make an online summer camp worthwhile and valuable while students are looking at the screen? So I was really happy to see a few online questions as far as summer camp goes. Because yes, it is possible to do an online camp. I did it for 2 years successfully during COVID. One of the camps I did was a Heart and Soul camp. I was inspired by Rebecca Maxner's Heart and Soul series she put out on her blog, and I'll link to that in this blog post. This was when I did this camp, it was a 2-day camp, and we met 90 minutes each day online, and it worked out great. One thing I also did with that camp is I did a little video of what I wanted them to get comfortable with Heart and Soul for a little bit before we actually started the camp. So I did a video tutorial for them to watch before camp started. That way we could dive into all the other fun activities that we did with Heart and Soul. Another online camp that I've done was a camp that I previously have done in person, which was my practice camp. This one works great online, in person, but even as a recorded camp. I even invited my adult students to take the recorded version, and they loved it. And the nice thing about having a recorded version of a camp is that you could reuse it. And another benefit of having a recorded version of a camp is you could have that as an option for your students that come in person but can't attend your in-person camp, have them do a recorded camp, or um, if you teach online and they can't participate in any of the sessions that you're doing online, have them do the recorded version. So the practice camp worked awesome for as far as the recorded version went. And really a lot of them would that are more um, based on learning, um, like the Heart and Soul camp would work great as a recorded version too, when they're learning things like that. Now, if you're doing more of an activity camp where you want to play games and things like that, and I've done that as well in my Christmas camps, we did that. You'll want to make sure you have the screen share, anything that you're sharing. You want to do that with any online camp, really. Make sure you have screen share. So make sure your online platform has that. And then breakout rooms will work great depending on the camp that you're doing. But some ideas is have students collaborate in a breakout room, in small groups or partners, and then return and come back to everyone and discuss and share what they talked about. So the Let's Go to the Movies camp would work great for that, because you can go in the breakout room, have them work on their script together, and then come back to the group and, go from there. And then, this just speaking on the Let's Go to Movies and camp, if you do this online, I don't know if you remember during COVID, I'm sure you have. If you watch TV at all, some of Hollywood did they continued to do some TV series online, just having the actors and actresses do Zoom, and they were all on the Zoom screen, and they would do these skits in the character of their normal show, which was really fun to see. And so you could still do something like that with Let's Go to the Movies, if you want. So I think it would be fun. Haven't done that, but I think it would be awesome. All right, how long should each day be for an online summer camp for kids? This is a great question, and I shared what I do, but it really depends on what you're doing with your kids during the camp. You will need to remember that in an online format, activities will usually take longer to get through simply because everyone will need to take turns. So remember to be willing to let go of some of the activities that just might not happen simply because you ran out of time. On the flip side, it's always good to be prepared when a particular group may go through things faster than other groups. And this is the same with in person. So in person or online, I always have a if time backup plan. You don't want a particular session day to last too long, otherwise you can lose the kids. You don't want that engagement to fall during the session where kids are sneaking on their phone or in another app and not participating in the class. I do have a rule with my online camps that I need to see them, no videos off, sort of thing. They have to have their video on. I need to see their face and make sure that they are actively participating. So my personal happy medium was the 1.5 hours in one session. But an exception might be that movie camp that I talked about, where students are actively working together and planning their silent movie. You could easily meet for a couple hours and keep engagement high during that planning and recording process. So it really depends on the camp. If you're doing, let's say you did a camp that was 4 hours long, and you wanted to break it up, I would suggest breaking it up in either 4 1-hour days or 3 1-hour and 20-minute days. So that kind of gives you a little bit more where you're not going to lose that engagement. All right. Well, I hope this Q&A about summer camps was helpful. If you enjoyed this music teacher tip, please hit that subscribe button. Whether this is your first camp or you're doing your 10th, just remember if things don't go your way or the way you have it planned, don't be too hard on yourself. Instead, just learn from it. Write notes. I like to write notes if something didn't quite work the way I anticipated it. So just remember what went wrong and do better next time. Running a camp is an opportunity for you to grow and give yourself a pat on the back for a job well done, regardless if it was perfect or not. Chances are that it's going to be perfect is slim. There's going to be some hiccups, and that's okay. If you're looking for further help on summer camps, I do have an online course called Make More Teach Less, a comprehensive guide to running a music camp. You can find it at musiceducatorresources.com and just click on the course tab at the top and you'll find it there. Or if you prefer to work one-on-one, just go to the website and hover over contact in the right upper corner and then scroll down to click contact business mentoring to schedule a session. Until next time, happy teaching.